You mentioned the abuse. You mentioned just kind of, some of his dark desires. Something that really bothered me when I was watching the act is he comes across as sympathetic towards the end. They highlight his autism. Do you have any thoughts about that? Or, and despite what Nick did to you and your mother, do you have any empathy for him being in prison and what he has gone through?
I'd really love to know what he did to her and her mother that this man is asking about. He didn't do anything to her but save her, according to her. Yeah, because you don't know what those things are.
Nicholas Godejohn sits in a small prison cell where he will stay for the rest of his life. It only took a jury 2 short hours of deliberations to find him guilty of the first-degree premeditated murder of Dee Dee Blanchard.
Right.
Nicholas has no possibility of parole.
None.
Meanwhile, his co-defendant, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, was granted a sweet plea deal. She is now free and has
Wonder why that was.
a Lifetime TV series and is raking in a lot of cash on social media. Is this real justice? That's the question we will answer as we reveal the truly alarming information we learned about Godejohn's trial and how Gypsy Rose expertly made him her scapegoat. Welcome back to Becca Scoops. My partner is a veteran detective, and I'm Becca, a former RN. And this is part 4 on our series on Gypsy Rose Blanchard that will be focusing solely on Nicholas Godejohn. According to our research, Nicholas Godejohn never stood a chance at a fair trial.
Nope,
However,
not once.
to understand the complexity of how Nick became another victim in this case, we need to fully comprehend who he is, and only then can we fathom the truth about what really happened with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Nick made a traumatic entrance into this world. At birth, he required emergency intervention as the umbilical cord was wrapped around his tiny neck. Doctors surmised he was deprived of oxygen. Early on in his childhood, he failed to progress like other children his age.
This is true.
He was placed in special ed.
Yes, he was.
Diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism. Nick's reading and writing skills were found to be at 4th grade level when he graduated from high school. At 19 years old, after a failed attempt at employment at a pizza parlor, Godejohn was placed on long-term disability, or SSI.
Yes, he was.
Nick had met the criteria by the government and was certified as being a fully disabled person. According to the records, Nick had a severe disruption of his ability to function in society, hold employment, have friends, maintain relationships, prepare his own food, and take care of his hygiene. Dr. Theodore Wasserman, a pediatric neuropsychologist who is considered one of the foremost experts on autism, evaluated Nicholas at length. Wasserman stressed that people at the high end of the spectrum, such as those with Asperger's, want intimacy but have a very difficult time maintaining it. In fact,
we sure
the
do.
difference between autism and Asperger's is those with Asperger's want to be social and get along with people, but they just don't know how. The disorder interrupts their ability to read social cues, and they misjudge situations. Those with Asperger's have the same kind of social isolation as a person with classic autism, but the isolation is due to their inadequacy as opposed to actually choosing it. So, their need for an emotional connection is paramount. However, their isolation is due to their inability to connect as we do. And for some, with limited resources and help, this disorder can create a very sad and lonely life. Dr. Wasserman also revealed that at the time Nick was approached by Gypsy online, he had come out of a failed romantic relationship.
Yes, he
but
had.
could not look introspectively to say what went wrong. So he could not draw conclusions about how to keep a relationship from failing. Dr. Wasserman said, quote, like most people with Asperger's or autism, Mr. Godejohn was desperate to have a relationship and went right back to find a new person without having learned from his prior experiences.
Exactly.
In 2012, Nick was on the heels of the failed relationship, and this made him extremely vulnerable, more so than at any other time in his life. He would do anything in his power to ensure that an emotional connection was successful. Nick mentioned he was very lonely at this time. This was the perfect storm for someone with ill intentions to manipulate Nick,
Yep.
who was highly susceptible to such machinations.
Absolutely.
As Nick had expressed his loneliness to his mother over the breakup, Gypsy was trolling the Christian Dating for Free website. When she saw Nick's profile, she immediately contacted him, and as is typical with those with Asperger's, Nick did not initiate this encounter. However, he did respond to Gypsy's instructions when she suggested they take the relationship to Facebook. Remember, this initial contact is in 2012, and Dee Dee's murder isn't until June 2015. According to Dr. Wasserman, Gypsy tapped into Nick's vulnerabilities,
Yep.
almost like a predator seeking its prey.
Absolutely,
As we
100%.
grow up, most of us learn to interact socially from our experiences with the outside world. From our peers and family, we learn social cues. However, Wasserman claimed autistic people receive their information about the social requirements of relationships from the structure of videos and sometimes books, rather than from direct connections with peers or family. And what was Gypsy doing? Well, from February 2013 to May 26, 2015, Gypsy sent Nick a vast number of videos from an account she titled Demona Love Slave. Wasserman also pointed out that in the majority of the videos, Gypsy was depicted in highly sexualized role-playing personas.
Absolutely
They
was.
both took turns being dominant and submissive, with Gypsy being in charge, informing Nick when it was his turn to be master
Yep.
or slave.
Yep.
Gypsy was always in control,
100,
Wasserman
100.
said. Wasserman further confirmed that the videos were instructional videos in which Nick literally learned how to relate to Gypsy. It should be noted here that in many text messages where Nick might come off as the role-playing master, this was something Gypsy taught him to do in the videos. It was his turn. Wasserman further stated that Gypsy introduced role-playing and the various personas she was feeding Nick taught him about how to make a connection with her. For example, on the subject of love, she instructed him, if you love me, you will do this. If you love me, you will do that. In fact, besides manipulating this highly susceptible person, Gypsy's numerous videos were a way she was brainwashing Nick, molding him as
Yep,
a parent
100%.
might mold a young child. Dr. Wasserman found Gypsy's videos